Hi, this is Frank with a frank opinion. It's been said many times before when there's an election coming up that it's the most important in the history of our country. I do think that is the case, and I'm sure that many of you will agree with me that November midterm elections in this year is the most important in the history of our country. And who we elect to be in Congress at the end of that process is absolutely key to the future of our country. So in the next few videos, I'm going to present some ways of looking at our task, and that is to get the best people that we possibly can in Congress. And one of the ways that I'm going to suggest that we look at it, this is one of the ways that I'm looking at it, are what are the qualities that I would want the candidate to have. Now this is my list. You can have your own list. It can be shorter, it can be longer. There are some that I have left out here that come to mind. But this is my list. And though they're not in any particular order, the first one, humility, for me is the most important. Because I've worked with elected officials many times in the past, and I kind of know from where they operate. Humility. That means to me that a candidate for elected office is willing to listen, regardless of whether the person is poor or rich, whether they've given money to their campaign or volunteered for their campaign, that they're willing to listen to their constituents, to others outside of the district that they represent or the state that they represent. Candidates that are willing to have town hall meetings, many of them, to have constituent days in their offices, in their local offices, to be willing to go out into their district or state and talk to people where they live, where they work, where they worship. Listen. In terms of humility, also I'm looking at whether the elected official or the candidate looks like somebody that would become intoxicated by their position once elected. I'm looking at a candidate that might be willing to give up their leadership position and say, I've had my term in this office, let me move on to someone that is more in tune with the electorate and more in tune with the issues of the day. A person that comes to mind is Nancy Pelosi. Isn't it time? Courage. The latest mass gun shooting in Parkland, Florida, gives us a prime example. Does the candidate exhibit the courage that would be necessary to say no to the NRA, to fight against NRA dollars and objectives flowing into congressional halls? Compassion. In terms of compassion, there are many issues, but do I want a candidate that looks like they would be willing to be okay with currently 71 million Americans being uninsured and underinsured, and to back the repeal of a program that will amount to an additional tens of millions of people being uninsured? Do I want an elected official that will hold children's health programs hostage, that will hold dreamers hostage? I don't think so. I think the person has to have a heart. The person has to be compassionate. Confidence. Confidence to know what they don't know and be able to work with others that may know more than they do about a particular issue. Confidence to lead, but also confidence to be able to follow when someone else may be in a better position to lead, or when they know more about a particular issue or have a solution that is better. Curiosity. In terms of healthcare, is it true that Canada has long waiting lines? Do I want to send my staff up there? Do I want to go up there? What are other countries doing? What is that little chip that the French have and the Germans have that seems to reduce the amount of time and headache and agita that their citizens have with respect to gaining their health care? Integrity. The person that comes to mind right away here, and I don't want to name too many names here, is John Kelly. The minute that he lied about what Congresswoman Frederica Wilson said, my father, by the way, if he was alive and he saw that, he would say, he's no good. My father kind of nailed it. Very plain-spoken, very honest individual. Didn't take much for him to size up somebody. It didn't have to take Rob Porter, and it didn't have to take this and that to indicate to him that John Kelly, regardless of his military background, lacked integrity. Maturity. Do we want somebody that can make reasoned decisions? They don't have to be the most intelligent person in the world, but reasoned, mature, wise decisions. Not a person that will go along with any effort that's half-baked that might lead to a nuclear war. Honest. Well, we have lots of examples of that. The tax bill. The tax bill is a dishonest bill, the one that just passed. And any person that was on TV, in the paper, saying that this was going to be good for middle-class working Americans was lying to you. And these elected officials, as you know, very often lie. We're very often bait and switch. We won't want a dishonest person in office. Generosity. There's no way of dealing with income and wealth inequality, which is first and foremost. We're the leader in the world in terms of developed countries with regard to our income and wealth inequality. Well, if you're a generous person at heart, you're going to have a problem with that and you're going to try to solve it. And common sense. Common sense, example there is climate change. Are all those scientists wrong? Do I want to play Texas Hold'em and go all in, even though I don't have the best hand, even though I don't know what the other person has, risking the lives of millions of Americans? I don't think so. I think the person has to have some common sense. So in sizing up my list, I thought about who would be an example for me from what I know about them, having read about them. That comes to mind with having lots of these, if not all of these qualities. Not perfect. Person wasn't perfect. Nobody's perfect. For me, Abraham Lincoln. Okay? Abraham Lincoln became the person that came to mind in terms of how much I've read about him that had nearly all of these qualities. The person that comes to mind that doesn't have any of these qualities, none, is our current occupant in the White House. The antithesis of this. I leave you with that thought, but I leave you with the task of creating your own list of qualities that you want in an elected official that you support this November. Thanks.